Hello, and welcome to More Thoughts. Today is Sunday, and the sun is shining. It's very beautiful. And I'm thinking about the cost we pay for obeying the rules with this coronavirus uh, scare, because we are all now afraid to touch each other. And I think that is a sad thing. And my only hope is that when this is over, uh, we'll go back to hugging and kissing because I think that's terribly important. Um, it's terribly important. I I've always been a huggy kissy little girl, and I remember how important it was for me with my two aunts, especially with my two aunts, because my mother was not demonstrative with me at all. My mother didn't like me, and my father was very distant. But my two aunts really loved me, and when I would go over to my Aunt Tick's house, she would just stop everything and throw her arms around me and say, "Oh, Linny, you're here." And my Aunt Hazel would do the same thing. And there were my mother's two sisters. And when we were little, we all used to gather at my grandma's house. My grandma was a Romanian immigrant. She couldn't speak English, but she knew very much how to love children. And she would roll up the carpet, and all of us, my cousins, Leonard and Baby Howard, who is now in his 70s, but we still call him Baby Howard, Leonard and Baby Howard and Friedel and Lois Ann and me, because Jessica was not born yet. Well, I think Jessica was a little teeny baby. The rest of us were not born yet. Um, and we would dance, and we would dance, and oh my God, I loved it. And my Aunt Hazel used to pick me up, and she used to swing me around over her head, and my mother used to yell, "Stop, stop, you're going to dislocate her, you're going to pull her arm out of a socket." But I didn't care. I didn't care because I was hugged and kissed and loved and danced with. What a shame that we can't dance with each other now. What a shame. But when I was little, because I used to run to love. I was mad, run to love. I would visit people that would love me because I didn't get any at home. And our landlady was a woman named Mrs. Berlin who was hard of hearing, as I am also. And she had her hearing aid. The speaker was on her chest, and when I would go in there, she would feed me homemade cookies and a glass of milk and a lot of hugs and kisses. And of course, she couldn't hear a word I was saying, which was lovely. But when the phone would ring, she would go answer the phone and she would put it on her chest. And I thought that Mrs. Berlin was the most beautiful person in the whole world. And she was actually a very old woman, and she was probably not aesthetically too marvelous, but to me she was exquisite. She was exquisite. And I came running home one day after I saw Mrs. Berlin answer the phone, and I said to my mother, "Mrs. Berlin speaks to me from her heart." And my mother said, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "No, she speaks from her heart." But I think in a way that's a message I want to give across today. Um, we need to speak to each other from our hearts now. We're all afraid of each other, and we're afraid to get close to each other. And I think getting close to each other verbally is our only option right now. And so I want to remind all of you to speak to each other from your heart, not your intellect, not uh, your sense of self righteousness, not your sense of injury that this has happened, because that does you no good at all. Speak from your heart. Speak from your heart to one another, and we'll get through this. And thank you very much for joining me for my thoughts.